Building a championship contender soon after drafting a franchise centerpiece has historically been a mixed bag. For one, the team drafting such a player more than likely was a bottom dweller that respective season, and presumably doesn't have a great amount of talent on the roster. Secondly, an incompetent front office that lacks vision will continue to fall short of expectations regardless of how great their future cornerstone is. These are the regimes that fail to cater a roster to the specific strengths of their franchise star and chase names rather than fit in free agency. And lastly, even if a front office has everything planned out for the future, previously signed bad contracts will obviously hamper any prospect of pairing suitable pieces with the team's franchise player. However, a team that has played the game well is the Atlanta Hawks, who only began the rebuild during the 2017 offseason, but are now back in the Eastern Conference Finals for just the second time in franchise history. But before we talk about the ascension of the Atlanta Hawks and how the rebuild will set a precedent for the rest of the league, be sure to leave a like on the video, as each like makes a massive difference for this channel. And if you end up enjoying the video, feel free to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, as we're on the road to 1500. The bottom line of the Atlanta Hawks rebuild is that they realized they had a generational talent in Trae Young and felt it wise to surround him with a competitive team very early in his career, even though he hasn't even signed his rookie extension yet. And if you really think about it, this is very wise for several reasons. For one, it keeps your star player happy, and keeping them happy makes them willing to stay long term. If a young player isn't wasting masterful seasons that they've had because the organization actually surrounded them with talent, then that sets a positive precedent for the player that the organization actually has their interest as a priority. It also helps the player know that the organization is dedicated towards building a contender. Secondly, playing with better supporting pieces just makes the game so much easier for the young talent in question. Instead of defenses solely focusing on them and making their efficiency that much worse, having respectable pieces surrounding them opens up more elements of their game and presumably increases their effectiveness. And again, this ties back to making the player happy. And lastly, if you have a generational prospect on your hands, why would you wait and waste productive years of their careers just because they're young? Even if these players are relatively young, we've seen so many modern examples of younger players being some of the best of their position in the league. So if they are that good, surrounding them with talent only makes you a competitive squad that can even make some noise in the playoffs like this Atlanta Hawks team has. Regardless if there is a super team in your conference, there is no reason for a front office to remain dormant and stick to the status quo, because there's so much to gain from fielding a competitive team early in a player's career. Players' happiness is one thing, signing key players before their rookie extension kicks in is another thing, and as these playoffs have proven, you just have to go for it and see what happens sometimes. If the Hawks didn't make those acquisitions over the offseason, they wouldn't be in the position to make the Eastern Conference Finals this season. To get where they are today, tanking was obviously a part of the equation for the Atlanta Hawks. They began the rebuild in the summer of 2017 when they traded away Dwight Howard and when the faces of that 2015 Hawks team left in free agency. But in tanking was the prospect of drafting a franchise player and a supporting core that could develop into a competitive team. And after winning only 20 games in a season where Trae Young averaged 30 points and 9 assists on 60% true shooting, the Hawks realized that Trae Young needed help and utilized their cap space to go after Bogdanovich, Gallo, and other pieces that complemented Trae Young's game. Not only that, they bought low on Clint Capella during the 2020 NBA trade deadline. With Trae Young only being in his third season and already making the conference finals in just his first playoff appearance, this assuredly has to have ripple effects to the rest of the league, causing other young talent in the league to contemplate their situations. Luka Doncic, who was literally traded for Trae Young on draft night, is obviously a generational talent. However, it's clear and obvious that Trae Young's supporting cast is more talented than Luka's supporting cast. Brunson and Hardaway are the only other guys who can put the ball on the floor, and Porzingis of 2018, or even the Porzingis of last year heading up to the bubble, is nowhere to be found. And mind you, the Mavs surrendered 2 firsts to get KP and have already signed him to a 5-year, $150 million extension. In hindsight, I obviously know that I'm looking at the Porzingis trade in a negative light, and that the narrative at the actual time of the deal was that the Mavs won the trade. However, Luka's frustration is justified because this is 2021 and Porzingis is clearly a shell of what he was a few years ago. The Josh Richardson-Steph Curry trade also proved to be a disaster, and things are swirling out of control in Dallas. And with respect to Zion, there's literally no reason the Pelicans should have extended Steven Adams. I know the Pelicans had deficiency in rim protection, but your franchise player is someone who can't stretch the floor and operates predominantly in the paint. Thus, players like Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, who aren't the greatest floor spacers, shouldn't be occupying the floor with Zion. At the end of the day, the Atlanta Hawks' success isn't going to cause every young player in the league to assess their situations and demand trades because they aren't winning. However, with player empowerment and player movement, you're going to see a lot of these younger players contemplate their futures for their respective teams because the writing may be on the wall that their franchise is incompetent in building a winner. With that being said, that's it for the video. Be sure to leave a like, as again, each like makes a massive difference for the channel, and also feel free to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to hit 1,500 subscribers. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to also follow me on social media, and thank you guys for listening, and stay tuned.